Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman. And Mark, I got to say, it's good to be back with you.
Ron, always happy to be with you and spending some time going through a lot of the great questions that we get on this show, and always happy to be here.
We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things on today's show, talking about your financial security, your 401k, strengths and weaknesses, and all kinds of other things that might happen. We also have some great questions coming up on today's show in our request line. But first, let me give you the phone number, and we'll repeat this number several times during the show, but go ahead and write it down right now. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call that number or you can shoot a text in that direction as well. 520-333-7601. One more time, that is 520-333-7601. Again, you can call or text, and that'll put you in touch with Mark Silverman, a certified financial planner professional and the president of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Everybody wants financial security. You don't want to outlive your money, and you also don't want to have to worry about it. You want to be safe and secure and feel that everything is taken care of, and the only way to do that is to have a good plan, and Mark Silverman can help you achieve that. Financial security might mean different things to different people, but for nearly everybody, making sure that they achieve their own definition of security is the most important part of their retirement plan. Different people want different things out of their retirement. Tell us about the discussions you've had with people when they express some of these various elements of financial security. Number one, there are some folks who say, I just don't want to be a burden on my kids. Regardless of my health situation, I don't want them to have to worry about it. What's your response to those people?
Well, it's looking at, as we're building a plan, it's looking at the long-term care component. And again, we've talked about this before on other shows, but looking at what's the long-term care strategy. And one of the ways is obviously to self-insure. So if you make a decision not to do anything, that would be self-insure, which means you're paying for your nursing home stay if that were to happen. Other ways of doing it is traditional long-term care insurance is obviously available, but there are some better ways, in my opinion, such as using life insurance with living care benefit riders, which means that you can use the death benefit portion to pay for some of the long-term care or even in some cases in-home care situations. And there's also some annuities out there that offer some long-term care benefits. So it's really having that conversation and having a strategy of what's going to happen if you or your spouse need to go into a home or something like that. And so you aren't a burden on your kids. And then the other fact is, if your kids aren't nurses or doctors, they probably can't take care of you anyways. And so, it's having those conversations and having that strategy in place.
And we talk about this all the time, Mark, about how just about everybody's number one fear is outliving their money. There are some folks who just come into your office and say, Mark, I want to be sure that I never run out of money. What do you tell those people?
Sure. And that's probably the number one thing we hear from people. That's probably most people's biggest fear. It's looking and seeing how much are you spending or how much you're going to spend in retirement. If you're already retired, how much you are spending, looking at inflation, which most people don't do. We use a 3% inflation rate here in our office. And I can tell you, based on that, you lose about a third of purchasing power every 10 years. So you need a growing income. If you're getting Social Security, that does increase a little bit. If you do have a pension and you're fortunate enough to have one, most of those don't increase. And so it's really having an income that's going to last you, if you're married, you and your spouse's life expectancy. And so making sure that you have a great plan that's going to have enough income to get you through all the different years of your life and making sure you don't spend too much. And so that's really what we help with. And that's really why a plan is so important before you get into what investments you should buy.
Retirement means different things to different people. Some people just don't want to totally retire. After they retire, they want to be able to work part-time if they want to, but certainly not because they have to. That is a situation that really nobody wants to be in.
Correct. And so, retirement means different things to different people. And we know that. Some people want to be retired completely, meaning they're not going to work anymore. Some people maybe want to continue doing what they're doing, but slow down to an extent, or some people want to, do something totally different. So what we call it is a work optional lifestyle, like you just mentioned, Ron, working because you want to, not because you have to. And so we want to make sure that if you do decide to retire, or if you are going to be working part-time or whatever it might be, that again, you're not going to run out of money. And so you're able to do something to occupy your time. And certainly a lot of people want to continue doing something. You can't just sit around and watch TV all day. And so it's important that you have a plan as far as what you're doing. But again, that's why we want to make sure we run the numbers and give you the right advice to make sure that everything that you're looking to achieve is going to be possible.
If you'd like to sit down for a conversation with Mark Silverman, call or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call that number and get on the calendar. A member of Mark's team will get back with you first part of the week, and set up a time for you to come in when it's convenient, and you're under no obligation at all. Come in and have a conversation. 520-333-7601. We're talking about financial security. That means different things to different people. And I'm certain that here's a conversation that you've had and a statement that you've heard people make. If I need a knee replacement or a new transmission, I don't want that to prevent me from spoiling my grandkids at Christmas time. What do you say to those folks about those so-called emergency funds that sometimes crop up?
Sure. So everybody needs an emergency fund, and that can vary. As a certified financial planner, we tell our clients they need at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses that should be liquid at all times. That means you should be able to get to the money without fees, surrender charges, penalties, for those sorts of things. For our retired clients, we err on the more conservative side, so we'll even have as much as 12 months worth of expenses liquid. But that's the reason why you need an emergency fund, because things do come up. We know that. Like you said, a knee replacement or a new transmission, or your roof leaks, or in Tucson, a big problem is your air conditioning breaks. Things need to be replaced or fixed. So it's important that you have enough cash. And I find too often a lot of people either one, have too much in cash, which means you're losing purchasing power, or two, which is probably even a bigger problem, they don't have enough liquidity, and they've been sold products where they're locked in and they don't have enough of an emergency fund, which will be a problem at some point.
All right, one more question I want to ask you about here and how you handle this. If someone wants to come in and they say, they're worried about feeling secure during their retirement, I don't want to watch my accounts constantly jump up and down. Just can't take that stress all the time. What's your solution for that?
Sure, Ron. So one of the most important things we do is really assess your risk tolerance, which is your comfort level. And investments do have volatility. The more risk you take, the more return you can expect to achieve. So we want to really be aware of what your comfort level is. And if you're married, we assess both people's risk tolerance to understand that. And we also want to look at that in relation to your overall financial plan to make sure you're on track to achieve your goals with your risk tolerance. So it's not always about how much risk you're taking, and sometimes people can take less risk and still achieve their goals. So that's really what we're trying to do, is understand what your comfort level is, because if you can't sleep at night, what good is it? But you do need some amount of risk in your portfolio, but how much we need to determine, and everybody's situation is different. So it's really having a plan so you can invest at your comfort level so you can stay invested, because the problem is, everybody wants to be aggressive when the market's going up. We're in the second longest bull market we've ever been in right now. So a lot of people's greed is starting to take over. But once the market does finally correct, because it will at some point, we know that, a lot of people are going to lose more than they thought they were going to lose, or more than they're comfortable losing, I should say, and they might get out of the market. So it's really about staying invested, and that's why you have to be invested at your comfort level, and that's what we really try to help our clients do.
Mark, a lot of folks out there, every listener out there has some kind of a question when it comes to money and saving for retirement and financial peace of mind and that sort of thing. And I know that a lot of people have been thinking about calling the number or texting the number and coming in and sitting down and having a conversation with you. And that's what it is. You're not going to try to sell them any particular products or anything like that. What do you have to offer those people when they come through your door?
Sure, Ron. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process, like Ron mentioned, called the financial physical. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we'll discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the Financial Physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This becomes the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only local one here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Call that number or just send a text to that number, 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates in Tucson, serving all of southern Arizona. Wherever you are in the area, call that number and you can arrange a time to come in and have a conversation. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. My name is Ron Stutz, and I am fortunate to be with Mark Silverman today on today's show, and we'll have more coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman in just a moment.
Planning for retirement shouldn't be a mystery. So why is it so easy to get bogged down with financial terms and advisors who try to offer you a sales pitch? At Silverman and Associates, Mark Silverman and his team take pride in looking after their clients' best interests. Schedule a complimentary review of your situation. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
It's time to get to know Mark Silverman just a little bit better here on Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman, a certified financial planner, professional, the president of Silverman and Associates. And if you're anywhere in the Tucson area, you definitely want to catch up on a lot of the things that Mark's going to be saying on today's show. And Mark, this is our Getting to Know You segment. I know a lot of people out there know you already because you serve so many clients in the area, so many individuals and couples and families, but maybe a lot of people who may be listening to us relatively recently don't know you quite as well. And my question to you, in order to give them an opportunity to get some insights into your personality, what TV shows, if any, are you into right now?
Lately it's been more sports, college football, NFL, that sort of thing. Now that's the season. I would say, though, I just started watching last weekend a show on Netflix called, I think it's Riverdale.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
No, I don't think so.
We were just flipping through trying to figure something to watch, and it's kind of addicting. I'm not into the binge watching thing, but me and my wife have watched a couple of the episodes, and it's about a small town, and there's a high school, and then there's a death in one of the students, and everything is tied together. So we're about halfway through it, I would say.
Wow.
I don't know how many seasons there are. I don't know if this is the first season or not, but it's entertaining. I'll put it that way.
So are you likely to, you and your wife, you're likely to sit down and binge watch when you get an opportunity, watch several episodes at a time?
We'll watch a couple of them. I try to go to bed relatively early, so I start falling asleep. So that's when I know it's too many.
Well, about a year ago, my wife and I got into Parenthood. We had never seen it before, and we decided to watch the entire series. And we liked it so much that we couldn't stop watching it. And we watched all of it in it took us about a week and a half to do it.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing with this. It's more, every time you watch one, you got to kind of watch the next one, but eventually you get tired and need to fall asleep. So
there's another similar show right now called This Is Us. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I don't usually watch these type of shows. I'm more into, like I said, sports, especially with NFL now and college football. So.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
It's entertaining.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that is our Getting to Know You segment with Mark Silverman on today's edition of Saving with Silverman. There's more coming up in just a moment.
At Silverman and Associates, we believe you deserve a financial plan that's customized to your situation. That's because no one strategy could possibly fit your unique needs and goals. From strategizing to execution, our goal is to give you undivided attention. Come in for a visit today and learn what it looks like to put your retirement dreams into action. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
At Silverman & Associates, we understand that life can be expensive. There are bills to pay, and you might have loved ones you want to look after. With all those extra expenses, it's easy to neglect your own financial health. We want to make sure you'll be well cared for when the time comes. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and glad you decided to join us on the show today. And it is our story time segment now, and Mark Silverman has lots of stories. If you'd like to hear a lot of those stories, you can come in and have a conversation with Mark, and Mark can get to know you. You can get to know him. But the number to call to make that happen is 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. You can call or text to that number and set it up. Set up a very convenient time to come in. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. Saving with Silverman, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life. Mark, tell us about a time when somebody came into your office thinking they needed one thing, but then you discovered after talking to this person that he or she really needed something totally different instead.
I mean, that happens all the time. Most financial advisors, I will say, which I've said this before, are truly financial salespeople. They're not really advising, they're more selling. So most advisors or salespeople, however you want to refer to them, kind of hang their hat on the investment management piece, which is one of the things that we do. But most advisors are really focused on just the investment management. They are not helping with, figuring out how to build an income plan, how to minimize taxes, estate planning. How's the risk? Is the risk appropriate? Does it match your goals and objectives and your comfort level? When should you take Social Security? If you have a pension, how should you take it? Should you just take it on your life, or should you take it on you and your spouse's life? All these different decisions that people have to make that they really need help with, but most advisors are there just to either sell an investment or insurance product, and that's really what a lot of people come in after they've met with other advisors and that sort of thing, either from the radio or just people that they were referred to, thinking that we do the same thing as everybody else, and we really don't. Holistic comprehensive financial planning is really what we focus on, and so it's helping people make the right decisions. And sure, we do investment management, like I said earlier, but it's really about helping people make those decisions and making sure that they have a solid plan and the right strategy to help them through those sorts of things. And looking at long-term care, look at the insurance pieces, looking at everything and making sure that they have a solid plan. So I think most of the time when people come in, they don't realize everything that we do because they're so used to maybe their current advisor or other advisors that they've been interviewing who are just focused on one thing.
So Mark, what you're saying is basically there are a lot of people out there who may think they're working with an advisor, and they're really not. They're working more with a salesperson, and they need to come see you.
Exactly. Well, if they want to be sold something, then they could work with those other people.
Yeah.
If they're looking just to be sold something, that's not what we do. We're really trying to put the client first and offering them the right advice that's in their best interest at all times.
Mark Silverman's planning process is called the Financial Physical. You can get the Financial Physical sort of like you would if you went to a doctor and you got a physical on your body to make sure everything's working, everything is fine, and that's what it's all about. Saving with Silverman is the name of the show. Mark Silverman on here with me, Ron Stutz. The number to call or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Also, while you're at it, check out the website, savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. We'll have more on today's edition of Saving with Silverman coming up.
Mark Silverman is a lifelong Arizonan, and his firm is based right here in Tucson. When you come in for a visit, you can expect someone who's familiar with your community. At Silverman & Associates, our relationship with you is most important to us. We want to build you a financial plan that's unique to your goals. No generic products, no corporate red tape, just friendly folks looking to give you a comprehensive approach to retirement planning. Come in for a visit today and let us help you build a meaningful retirement. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Have you ever heard that story about the grasshopper and the ant? You know, the one where the grasshopper fails to plan in the spring and almost starves to death in the winter? Learn from that. Don't wait until it's too late to get your finances in order. Start your path to a rewarding retirement today. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman every week on this radio show. And Mark Silverman's number to call or text 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. I'd like to remind you also to check out Mark's website, really good website, savingwithsilverman.com. Really easy to remember, savingwithsilverman.com. Mark, let's talk about 401ks. I know you devote a lot of your time to dealing with 401ks, and that is foremost in the minds of a lot of folks that you deal with. Well, let's talk about some of the weaknesses that folks should be aware of in their 401ks or 403bs or whatever they have. First of all, administrative costs. A lot of people really aren't familiar with how much these things actually cost them, right?
That's true. When we talk about 401ks, we should also include, like you said, 403bs, 457 plans, TSPs, their savings plans, because we do come across a lot of those. But, for most people that are working, they have most of their investable assets in these type of accounts. So it's important that you understand those. But there are administrative costs, and it's really hard to understand what those are. You can Google 401k administrative costs and see. But even if you were to ask your current company's HR person what the administrative cost of the plan is, you usually get ranges because they can't even tell you exactly. So some plans are more expensive than others. The more choices that you have, et cetera, the more expensive it is. And unfortunately, in this day and age, as we've seen, at one point people were taking away company matches, and those have started to come back a little bit, but you are seeing that the employer is putting a lot of these costs on the employee now. So it's important to understand that.
How about mutual funds and not much else? A lot of 401ks, that's pretty much what they are. What do you tell those people?
You got to make the best choice with what you have. And if you've heard me before, I'm not a huge fan of mutual funds. We used to sell those 20 plus years ago when I started in this business, but I think there's better ways. I'm a much bigger fan of using individual securities or exchange traded funds, or as we call them, ETFs, than I am using mutual funds. But you have to make the best of what you have. And mutual funds do have a lot of hidden fees and expenses. There's an article that I've referenced many times. It was in Forbes. It's called The Real Cost of Owning a Mutual Fund. And if you read that article, they estimate total cost for the average mutual fund is somewhere between 3 and 4% per year in hidden fees and expenses. Most people just look at what their expense ratios are, but there's more to it than that. So you got to get educated and understand what the real rate of return is after you've paid those fees, because you don't see those fees. That's the whole problem with these administrative fees and mutual fund expenses is you don't see a line item of how much you paid. It's taken off the top. So it's important to understand those sorts of things.
If you'd like to arrange a time to come in for a conversation about all of these 401k weaknesses we're talking about today, call or text 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates office in Tucson, serving a lot of folks from all over the area. How about limited asset classes? What do you have to say about those?
As I mentioned earlier, Ron, the more choices that you have in your company retirement plan, the more expensive it is to administer the plan. So that's why you've seen a reduction where you don't have as many choices as you may have had in the past. But like I said before, you got to make the best of the situation. So as a service to our clients, what we do is if we can do an in-service distribution or in-service withdrawal, which means you move your vested portion out into a self-directed IRA, which is your best choice because you're not limited on what you can do. But if you can't, what we will do is we'll actually go in and figure out what the risk tolerance is, and I'll put together a model portfolio of what that should look like and give the allocations, which you could relay to your employer as far as making those changes. And it's important to rebalance it at least once a year. So that's important to do, but there are limited choices. They're not going to give you as many choices as you once maybe have saw in the past just because of the expenses of administering that plan.
We're talking about various weaknesses of 401ks, and if you're looking for subpar conservative investments, that's probably not a good place to look, is it?
No, it's probably not. You don't get a lot of choices, and that's really the big problem is the number of choices that you have, especially on like the fixed income side for people that are getting close to retirement that maybe want some more conservative investments in there. You typically have a money market and maybe 1 or 2 bond funds. You don't have a lot. So it's really, again, as I said before, trying to make the best of what your choices are while you're in that company plan. And so that's certainly not a reason not to contribute to it. So you want to make sure you're still contributing to it and making the best choices there and optimizing based on your risk tolerance, where those things should be, and rebalancing on a consistent basis.
Do you have some questions about 401ks? 401ks can be very powerful when it comes to your retirement, but it's not perfect. It's not ideal. You got to find out all those little intricacies and all those details that Mark Silverman knows about, and most of us don't necessarily. Mark, what do you have to offer those folks who might decide to finally make that phone call and come in for a visit?
Sure. So just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So if you're a do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process with me. We call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we will address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one local on the radio here in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly, so I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is your number to call. 520-333-7601. Again, you can call that number or you can send a text to that number. It doesn't matter, whatever's more convenient for you. 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates in Tucson, wherever you are in southern Arizona. Go ahead. That'll put you in touch with Mark Silverman, and you'll be on your way. Sometimes the most difficult thing to do is to go ahead and make that initial phone call. So do it right now. Don't even wait until the end of the show. 520-333-7601. Call or text, but either way, reach out. This is Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. We'll have more on today's show coming up.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. My name is Ron Stutz, and I am with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, and the president of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark and to come in and have a conversation about your situation, here's your number to call or text, 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Mark can give you all kinds of good generic advice here on the radio. He he talks about a lot of interesting things, but can't really get specific about your situation with any kind of specific personal advice without knowing more about your situation. And everybody's situation is different. We're all unique. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text and make it happen. There have been many cases where you have dealt with what I would call portfolio disasters. Between wildfires, hurricanes, and floods, we've all had a lot of natural disasters on our minds recently. And while life and limb aren't at stake when it comes to your portfolio, experiencing any kind of a financial disaster can still have a catastrophic effect on your life in retirement. So I thought that today it would be appropriate to discuss some portfolio disasters that we've seen and how you can help people avoid them. Number one on the list here, how about Mark, a recently widowed spouse who's completely in the dark and doesn't have a clue about her financial situation now? What do you do to help that person?
That's a great point. And that's the reason why you notice if somebody's married and they want to come in for an initial meeting, I will not meet with that person if they don't bring their spouse. It's just a rule that I follow. I have a fiduciary responsibility, and this is a relationship business. And if I'm going to build a relationship, I can't do that with one person if there's two that are involved. So that's the reason for that. And I've seen too many times where the spouse is left out of the picture, the other person dies and leaves them just like you said, and they have no idea what's going on. I've even seen it in extreme cases where the spouse didn't even know how to write a check. And in some cases, they've come to me after they've already met with someone else and they were sold some stuff they never should have bought because they didn't know any better and they were taken advantage of, which is a horrible thing. So I always make sure that both spouses attend the meeting, and that's why I make it a rule in our practice of that's how we do things, because I've seen it go wrong too many times. And as I tell people, if a husband and wife are married, we know women outlive men. So chances are, if I'm going to work with those two people, the wife will be my client longer than the husband will. And so it's a relationship, and that's how we start all relationships, is by meeting with both people. And if they don't want to bring their spouse for whatever reason, we just won't engage in that relationship.
Mark, I know that there are some people out there who say, well, I'm a pretty smart guy. I'll be able to absorb it and I'll go home and explain it. No, it's, something's going to get lost in translation. So I think what you have is a really good policy.
No, it is. And this is from experience. I mean, I've done it the other way before, and it's just, it's a waste of everybody's time. And so in order for us to be efficient and actually complete my fiduciary responsibility, both spouses need to be there at the meeting.
We're discussing some portfolio disasters that Mark has seen during his many years of doing this. How about a market crash that forces someone to work longer than they had planned, or perhaps even go back to work if they're already retired?
Well, I always give the example when we do our planning, somebody that retired in, say, 2007, and then we had the big financial crisis, or somebody that retired in 2009. Those two people had two different experiences given where they were in the market. It had nothing to do with, that was just timing. And so we have seen people who did retire prior to 2007, took a big hit in their portfolio, more risk than they thought they were taking, lost 40% of their portfolio, and unfortunately had to go back to work. And so it's an unfortunate thing, but that's why you want to make sure that you're taking the appropriate amount of risk and you're adjusting that as you're working, as you're getting closer to retirement, and certainly when you're in retirement. And managing the risk is a really key component of what we do, and making sure that your investments match your comfort level as well as your goals at all times. And so that's my advice, especially given, as I said earlier in the show, if you think about where we are in the market. I'm not saying that we're going to have a crash this year or next year, but I can tell you this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. And so it's important that you understand that and realize that, knowing that we are one day closer to a correction. Like I said, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow or the next day, but we are getting closer to one, and you need to make sure that you're protecting it. I'm not saying take all your money, get out of the market and buy annuities. There's plenty of shows on the air that'll tell you to do that. I'm not saying that, but you do want to make sure that you're taking the appropriate amount of risk.
It'd be nice to have a crystal ball, wouldn't it?
That would be helpful. Still looking, though.
Yeah. We're talking about portfolio disasters, and if you want to avoid that kind of catastrophe in your life, here's a number you can call or text, 1-520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates. You can also check out the website, savingwithsilverman.com. portfolio disasters today. And this is something that happens a lot, Mark. I know that you've dealt with it more times than you would like. A family legacy that gets wiped out by nursing home expenses. And that is an incredible expense at the end of someone's life.
It is, and if you look at the numbers here in Tucson, you're looking at about, in today's dollars, about $80,000 to $85,000 a year that's going to cost you. And if you say the average stays 3 years, you're looking at $250,000 that you need to cover that expense now. If you're going to go in 10 or 20 years, that number is going to be even higher. So it's really having those conversations and having that strategy of what you're going to do. And if you're going to self-insure, great. If you made that decision, that's what you're going to do. But if you could do some planning, there are things out there where you could put in, $1 today that'll give you $2 or $3 down the road to cover those sorts of expenses. And I'm not suggesting traditional long-term care insurance. There's other options that are available to you, but you need to be aware of those so you can make an educated decision on what strategy you want to take or not. It's really looking at all these different things and making sure that if you do want to pass a legacy on to your children, there's smarter ways of doing that by doing some pre-planning.
And the key is you need to be aware of all the options that are available to you. And Mark Silverman, of course, keeps up with this stuff every single day of his life. And so there are lots of things he knows about saving for retirement, making sure you have your long-term care expenses taken care of, et cetera, that most of us don't know. And we're talking about portfolio disasters. And one more I wanted to throw at you here, Mark, and see what you say. How about someone in his 80s who's living on only Social Security? That's a situation that I think everybody would love to avoid.
Sure. Luckily, I don't have any clients that fit into that situation because I think that's almost impossible in my opinion. Social Security should make up no more than 25 at best, 30% of your overall retirement income. If you're relying on Social Security more heavily than that, you are not going to have any type of real retirement. You're not going to be able to do anything, and you're going to basically be broke. And so it's important that you have your own savings. If you have a pension, great. Most people don't, but you have enough income in there. You have growth, and you have different streams of income to get you through. Because if you're going to be living into your 90s, let's say, because a lot of people these days, the plans that we're running people out until their early to mid 90s because of life expectancies, and people are living longer, as we know. So we want to make sure that you've done everything that you can so that you have the amount of income that's going to cover the things that you want to do in retirement, and maybe some of the things that you don't want to do but you have to pay for, such as healthcare, nursing home, those sorts of things. But if your plan is to live on just Social Security, that's not a good strategy, and that's terribly unfortunate if you're in that situation.
We probably scared some people listening today, and that is not our intent ever, but it's just some things that, we all should think about when it comes to retirement, and you want to avoid any kind of a disaster. There are lots of folks out there who would like to come in and have a conversation with you, Mark, and what do you have to offer them?
So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. And I don't pawn you off on somebody else. You actually get to meet with me. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. This is a lot different than all the other offers that are currently on the radio. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. And like I said earlier, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only local one here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots do fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Call or text 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601 is your number to call. You can also check out the website if you like, savingwithsilverman.com. Good website, savingwithsilverman.com. But again, the number to call to get Mark Silverman's financial planning process, it's called the Financial Physical. You can put your portfolio through a financial physical to make sure it's up to the test to survive and thrive in your retirement years. Should be the most relaxing period of your life, where you can sleep at night with peace of mind. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman, Silverman and Associates. There's more coming up. Stay with us.
Life is complicated. It's full of twists and turns and complex issues. The last things you need when planning your financial future are confusing numbers and advisors who just offer you a sales pitch. We believe there's a simpler way to invest. Your financial plan should be built on a plan that's made just for you. It's all about discovering your goals and designing a strategy that will help you get where you want to go. And don't worry, we'll track your progress along the way. Stop wandering your way through your investing life. Come in for a visit today. To schedule a visit, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here, along with Mark Silverman, and your number to call Mark is 520-333-7601. Call or text. Check out the website. If you haven't checked out the website lately, some good things on there. It's very interesting, very readable. You'll learn a lot by going to the website, savingwithsilverman.com. Can't forget that website address, that's for sure, savingwithsilverman.com, and that can help you make it happen. Get in touch with Mark, and you can pretty soon come in and have a conversation about your situation. But again, the website is savingwithsilverman.com. We have some great questions that have come in this week, Mark, on the request line. First of all, David in Green Valley. David says, I have no children or close family, and I don't really care about leaving money to any charities. Should that change how I invest, since I don't really care about a legacy?
Well, great question, David. You know, you should be investing to your comfort level, because even though this money, maybe you have enough to do everything that you want to do. I'm assuming that's the case. But if you can't sleep at night, as far as if we have a correction next week, for example, and your portfolio were to experience a loss, how does that make you feel? So you may want to adjust it just based on your comfort level, as long as you have enough to get you through your life expectancy, since you aren't looking to pass any money on to any certain charities, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. You do want to make sure that you're managing the risk appropriately to your comfort level and also to your goals. And your goals might just be to maintain your lifestyle, and that's certainly okay. But maybe there's a trip you want to take or something up on your bucket list that you want to do. So you want to make sure that you have enough to do all those things. And maybe you don't have to take as much risk as you might have had to if you're looking to pass money on to family members, that sort of thing.
We have another question here from Angie in Tucson. And Mark, I'll tell you in advance, this is a really great question. Something that causes a lot of anguish for a lot of people. Angie is in Tucson. She says, I haven't found a long-term care policy that I really like. Are they all this expensive?
Well, Angie, unfortunately, they are. There's not as many players in the traditional long-term care policy market as there used to be. So that's kind of hurt things as well. Plus, they've become more expensive. And full disclosure, I am licensed to sell long-term care insurance. And if anybody out there is listening has a traditional long-term care insurance policy, that's great. I personally think there are better ways than buying traditional long-term care insurance. And what I mean by that, and I've said this earlier, and I've been saying this for a while, I like the idea of using life insurance with the living care benefit rider to cover long-term care expenses. It's another strategy that's out there. There's also some annuities that are out there, which I don't like as much, but the life insurance options, I think, make a lot more sense because it gives you some options. You also get your cash value. You have a death benefit. It's not use it or lose it, if you will, like there is with traditional long-term care insurance. If you want to know more, certainly reach out to us. I can share some more information about that and look at your particular situation. But unfortunately, traditional long-term care insurance policies are expensive, and they get more expensive the older you get.
Reach out by calling 520-333-7601. You can text if you prefer to do that, 520-333-7601. And again, as I've said several times already today, check out the website, savingwithsilverman.com. We have a question from Jack in the Foothills. Jack says, we're retiring in 2 years and plan to sell our home and move to the beach. But home values in our neighborhood are sky high right now, so I'm wondering if I should sell now and rent for a couple of years. Is it a bad idea to rent at this stage of my life?
Well, Jack, thanks for the question. If you feel that it's easier to sell now and you want to rent something on the short term, I don't think that's a bad idea, but I would be looking at and seeing if you are going to rent, look around, see what's available, what you might be spending, making sure that that's not going to put your budget out of whack if you're spending a lot more money than you thought you were. The other thing is, what's the time frame? Because if you do have a large gain, and I'm not trying to give you tax advice, but if you do have a large gain on your property and you're going to be buying something somewhere else, say in California, wherever you might be going, I think there's rules there as far as how long you have to sell it before you have to repurchase something to defer the taxes. So that's something else you want to speak to a CPA about. But it's a great question. But again, I'd be looking around if you want to rent and you're ready to get out of your house now, and that's a decision that you for sure are going to make. That's something you want to consider. But if I can be any help, feel free to reach out to us. But if you do decide to sell, good luck.
Well, Jack, it also helps that home values in your neighborhood are sky high right now. That's a really good thing.
That too, because in Tucson, it's hit or miss. I mean, we've done okay here, but it certainly hasn't been as hot of a market as Phoenix has been.
Yeah. Beth in Rita Ranch has a question. Beth says, I just paid my last tuition payment, so my kids are officially off the payroll. Boy, that's a good feeling. How much life insurance do I need at this point?
Yes, Beth, congratulations. And, that I'm sure that's a great feeling. So, but as far as life insurance, if you already have, depends on what type you have. If you have term, I don't know how much you may or may not need of that. It depends on if you have any debt, if you still have a mortgage, if you're married, all these sorts of things. But life insurance can be used for different purposes now. If you have an older policy, which I'm assuming you do, it doesn't have a lot of the benefits as far as accumulation for maybe long-term care that you might be able to use. Sometimes we can use it for retirement income. There's lots of different options for life insurance that weren't available down the road, weren't available previously. So, we're finding a lot of people are replacing older policies with new ones just for these long-term care benefits and because their situations have changed and maybe why you bought it originally isn't applicable anymore and maybe you need it for other reasons. So before you cancel it, it might make sense to look and see, what you have and that sort of thing. But we're happy to do a life insurance policy review with you. We do them all the time. But if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to give us a call here at the office.
We're talking about all things retirement on Saving with Silverman, as we always do. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text 520-333-7601. In the mailbag, Randall in Midvale Park says, what do you see as the hot stocks right now?
Well, Randall, thank you for the question. If you've heard me before, we're not we don't do hot stock tips here in the office. That industry is, I guess, still around in some places, but we don't do those sorts of things. We're really focused on financial planning rather than picking a hot stock tip. You can pick up, get on the internet and see which stocks have done well if that's what you're looking for. But we're really more focused on diversification, really helping our clients and picking what the right asset mix is and doing that for our clients. But if you want to have a greater discussion as far as which stock tips you're looking for, I would probably call a broker, which we're not. We're more in the planning, financial advising, and planning phase rather than picking hot stocks.
I knew that's how you were going to answer that question. And oftentimes,
You've heard me before, Ron.
When you get a hot stock tip, it's too late.
It really is. And there was a thing with, I was just watching this past weekend, I think it was on CNBC, where they had, I think it's American Greed. Do you ever see that show, Ron?
Yeah.
And they were talking about one of the firms that was doing the hot stock tips, years ago, and how they would call, get a cold call list and start calling people with pitching stocks. And it's a good thing that industry is over with, in my opinion, because
really.
that didn't help anybody except for the people selling those stocks.
Well, you're not all about that, but you are about a lot of other good things. And I know that there are folks out there who could certainly benefit from a conversation with you in your office. One last question today, Mark. We've had great questions so far from David in Green Valley, Angie in Tucson. Jay lives in Oracle, and Jay says, ever since I retired, I've had a really hard time spending money. Something about not having a paycheck makes me nervous. Do you think I need to see a shrink?
No, you don't need to see a shrink, but what you do need is probably some type of financial plan. That's somebody that can run the numbers, look at your goals and objectives, what you're trying to accomplish. Maintaining your lifestyle is obviously one of those, but if there's anything else that's on your bucket list that you want to do, having somebody run the numbers so you make sure, looking at inflation and all these different factors, making sure that the income that you have, the assets, the money that you've saved are going to get you through your life expectancy. And if you're married, through you and your spouse's life expectancy. And that's the whole reason why we do planning. If you're just buying an investment or insurance product, that really doesn't answer your questions and letting you know if you have enough. The only way that you can feel confident knowing that you are going to be financially independent, really, because that's what it's about, is having a plan and having somebody run the numbers for you to show you so you can confidently go out there and do the things that you want to do without worrying about running out of money. But that's a great question. It's one that we get a lot here in the office.
There are a lot of people out there who can identify with that, I'm sure, because you spend all these years accumulating and, trying to get more and saving and everything else. And then all of a sudden you're retired. You don't have a regular paycheck coming in. And so you start taking money out of that. And psychologically, that really is painful because you think, hey, I'm diminishing the amount that I have. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to deal with.
That's really what we help people with, is those sorts of things, rather than, again, being product driven like so many other advisors or salespeople, if you will.
If you would like to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman, he has a special offer for you. Come in, sit down, and have a talk about your individual situation. What would that visit consist of, Mark?
Sure, Ron. So, here's the thing. I just answered some really good questions that we had this week, so it's my turn to ask the questions. Here's a simple question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? I repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional and the president of Silverman and Associates. And again, that website, check it out, is savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. But if you'd like to call or text right now, then a member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can come in and sit down face to face and have a conversation about your situation. But the number to call to make that happen, call or text 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. I know how easy it is to procrastinate. A lot of people say, well, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next week. Go ahead and do it now, because sometimes reaching out that very first time is the most difficult thing. You'll be on your way to achieving financial peace of mind in your retirement years. The number to call for a plan and the certified financial physical Mark Silverman can provide for you, 520-333-7601. Call or text if you prefer that. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. Mark, it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Ron, I'm always happy to be here. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. I hope you receive some value, and make sure you stay cool and drink plenty of water.
Join us again next week for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.